Hi students, welcome back. Today I'm going to go through the lesson for this week with you. Again, I'm assigning it today. Everything is due on Friday, and we are moving forward in the most dangerous game. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So hopefully you have everything submitted from the last 2 weeks. If you are just now getting technology at home, you can go back by looking below to the last 2 weeks and see what we have been working on. So today we're going to go through the vocab and the story for this week. I also wanted to give you another update about office hours. As we know, during this quarantine, every day things are changing, and my husband will be going back to work. So, what that means is that I will not be able to be online every day for office hours. So, what we're going to do is office hours on Tuesday only from 10:30 until 11. Okay, Tuesday only from 10:30 to 11, and it will be with Miss McGeehee as well. So feel free to pop in if you have a question. But since it is only once per week, we are asking that you only come if you have a question on the homework or on something that's been assigned. If you want to set up a separate meeting time outside of that, I can absolutely set up a time with you in either the evening or a weekend day. Okay, so if you want to set up a separate time, shoot me an email. Otherwise, it will be Tuesdays from 10:30 to 11 with Miss McGeehee and I. I want to invite you to share with me what you guys have been up to as well. How have you been changing your days to accommodate quarantine? What kinds of new things are you doing or trying with your families or friends online? Something that my family has started doing is playing bingo on Zoom. My parents emailed. They actually mailed us some bingo cards, my siblings and I. And so we've been setting up some Zoom video to play bingo together. And my parents figured out a way to get a separate camera to point at the actual bingo pieces that they're pulling so they can put them up as well. So it's very official. So that's one fun thing that I've been doing. So share what you've been doing. Send me an email or jump into office hours just to tell me how things have been going. I would love to hear from you guys. Great. All right, welcome back, students. Today we're going to do 2 new vocabulary words that are going to be really relevant in the story. So once again, you need to write these down in your notebook, on another piece of paper, or in your own Google Doc. The important thing is that you put them with the 2 words from last week, which you can remind me, Miss McGeehee, were hunt and
um, hunt and game,
game.
maybe. Yeah.
Perfect. Was game. So we're going to add more of these each week with words that we think are important to know and use that week. So keep them all together in the same place. So once again, please draw your vocab grid similar to the one that you see here so that you can track the word, definition, image, example. And then as always, you're going to upload your verbal practice onto Flipgrid. And that's where we'll be able to hear and share using the words and sentences. Our first word is going to be covered by Miss McGeehee.
Yes. Our first word is instinct. Instinct. It's a noun. Um, and the meaning of instinct is a genetic or not learned pattern of behavior. It's something that members of a species are born with. And so we have in this a picture of a spider with a spider web, because this is a behavior that spiders learn um, right away. Like when they're born, they know how to make a spider web. It's not something that necessarily any other spider taught them. It's just an ability they have and an instinct they have to do that. And our example sentence is spiders are born knowing how to build webs to catch food. It's an instinct. So our verbal practice on Flipgrid is when I hear a loud noise, it's my instinct to, and then you finish the rest. For me, when I hear a loud noise, it's my instinct to jump back quickly.
Something interesting that I read while I was researching these words is that most instincts are centered around survival. So most of the things that you are born knowing how to do are things that you need to survive. Okay, so for example, like spiders knowing how to catch their own food. You're born knowing how to breathe. No one has to teach you how to breathe. It's an instinct you have. All right, the next word, this is our last one. Again, we're doing 2 each week, is the word reason. Okay, this is a little bit different than the kind of reason that we usually use. This is a verb, okay, which means it's an action. So the reason, this form of reason means to think, understand, and make decisions using logic. Okay, so our image is this little person deciding which path to take. So he's going to use his decision skills, his logic, to reason which direction he should go, or she, or it. Our example sentence is, she hadn't seen her backpack since yesterday, so she reasoned she must have left it at school. Bonus question, what kind of sentence is this example sentence? Compound, complex, or simple? Pause it if you're trying to figure it out because I'm going to spoil it in 1 second. It's a compound sentence. Pat yourself on the back if you were right. Nice. And then our verbal practice on Flipgrid this week is, I use reasoning skills in math when I, and then once again, you finish the sentence.
And just to add to that, reason, there's different ways we use reason. And you might be most familiar with like one reason why, which is a noun. But here we're talking about it as a verb, as an action. Because in the story, one of the things that gets talked about a lot is using reasoning skills, and not just like using reason as a word that explains why something happens. So that's how we would like you to use it in this case.
And that relates to actually the third verbal practice that we want you to do on Flipgrid. And again, you will upload all of these in the same place. You'll just say my first verbal practice, my second, and my third. Okay, there aren't going to be 3 separate links. You'll do them all in one place. But the third verbal practice we want you to do is talk about whether or not you think animals reason, or do you think they act on instinct. This is the conversation that Mr. Whitney and Mr. Rainsford have on the yacht at the beginning of the story when they're talking about hunting, and they're disagreeing on this topic. So do you think that animals use reason, or do you think that animals follow their instinct? Okay, so that's the third verbal practice. So far in Most Dangerous Game, you were asked to read until page 7 and then complete the questions in the read-along journal that came up in the margins while you were reading. Okay, so basically so far what's happened is that Rainsford was on a ship or a yacht with his hunting companion, Mr. Whitney. He fell off the yacht, swam to shore, and now has found himself in kind of a jungle. Okay, so we're going to see what happens next today. Your job for today is going to be to read from where you left off at the end of page 7, so basically the beginning of page 8 until the end of page 17. While you are reading today, you are going to do the read-along journal part 2 and do the same thing that you did for the first part. As questions come up while you're reading, go to the read-along journal and type in your answers. And then when you're done, submit that on Google Classroom. And then if you would like to also be listening instead, you can follow along in the YouTube version, which I know some of you did for the first week. And then these are the times if you are following along on the YouTube version as well. So to recap, your job for today is to take notes on the 2 new vocabulary words, to upload your verbal practice onto Flipgrid, to read the story or listen to the story from pages 8 to 17, and then to complete and submit the read-along journal that goes with the story. Okay? I'm going to post one more video below, and it's for something called a Quarantine Independent Reading Project. I'm not including it in this week's video because the independent reading project is not due until towards the end of the quarter. And so I'm going to post a separate video explaining everything that you need to do for the independent reading project. And so you can watch that and should watch that as well. Bye.